What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We have talked about several leaks for source code and games and all kinds of stuff over the past few weeks. Well, it looks like another one has happened here. This one's a little different, though, because the system itself, the source code that's leaked out, is still on the market. We're going to go over that today. Also, we got to talk a little bit about the Joy-Con drift situation, as we are seeing updates now based on lawsuits that are currently in effect against Nintendo, and unfortunately, they look like they are going to be going on for a while. Like, some of these Joy-Con drift lawsuits might not come to completion until next generation for the Switch. Oh, and the Metroid Prime Trilogy, that popped back up in the news, but we'll talk a bit about what happened and why some people think it might even be coming out next month. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. We're going to start today with Halo 3. Okay, so Halo 2 on PC is out. I've been playing it on the PC. I like it, but I keep saying, when's Halo 3 coming? That's the one that I want. I want Halo 3 on PC. That's my favorite one out of the bunch they're going to be putting on PC. It looks like it won't be too much longer. In fact, it looks like it should be releasing sometime over the summer, and it could be as soon, I think, as July, as they did post an update for Halo Waypoint, and you can see that they mentioned that the first half of June, they should be starting closed flights. So they have like these test flights they do with the different games, the different Halos, and they will have people test them out on PC and pretty much report back any bugs or glitches that they find. And as they start to figure out any of the problems, fix them, eventually they get to a point where maybe they need like 3 or 4 flights, maybe they need 1 or 2. And as soon as they get to a point where they're comfortable enough to release it, they'll put it out there, and then they'll move on to, I assume, Halo 4 to wrap up the Master Chief Collection. But that does mean that they are on track for what they said they wanted to do, which was get all of the Halos on PC for the Master Chief Collection as they work towards the Halo Infinite drop at the end of this year. But Halo 3, July, maybe? Here's hoping. Also, during a live stream over the weekend, Suda51 talked about several games that he wanted to get onto the Switch, have them moved over, and one of them I was pretty excited to hear about. I know there's also another one in there that's pretty popular, but specifically Killer 7, but there are a few other games you can see here as well. Suda51 wants to bring the Silver Case, Killer 7, Killer is Dead, and Flower, Sun and Rain remake to Nintendo Switch. And okay, so Killer 7 immediately is the one that jumped in front of me, and I said, yeah, I would like that to come over. But I know the Silver Case is pretty popular as well. Killer 7, of course, went to Steam pretty recently, and maybe they just port that over. The problem is Capcom would be involved there, so they would have to make sure Capcom's on board with that one, whereas I understand they, Grasshopper, they wholly own the Silver Case. That would probably be something they could just greenlight and do on their own time, rather than have to talk back and forth with Capcom, make sure everyone's happy with, money split and all of that. One interesting thing here, though, is he didn't say anything about No More Heroes 1 or 2. I almost wonder, because No More Heroes 3 is coming up, if we will get a collection of some kind for the Switch ahead of the No More Heroes 3 release. I think that would make sense, as I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people with a Switch who have not played No More Heroes 1 or 2. But let me know about any of those games down there, like Silver Case, for example, or Killer 7, and if you would like to see them come to the Switch. Oh, and it looks like we have another delay, or I guess just rescheduling for an event based on obviously what's going on with the pandemic in the world. As you can see, it looks like Tales of Festival has been moved. It's been delayed to March 6th through the 7th, 2021. It was originally slated for the first half of June, so like the second week in June, we were going to have the Tales of Festival. And that's where a lot of people were thinking we would have seen Tales of Arise. It's kind of gone quiet with that game for a bit, and what they were showing looked pretty good. But I'm starting to think now, if this, obviously as this has been pushed, and that's where they were planning to show it, maybe they'll move Tales of Arise into the Summer Games Fest, as they can obviously just drop in there and give a trailer and maybe a release date for it, or maybe they have it already in like Microsoft's event or even Sony's event to showcase it there. But Tales of Arise was looking good. I was kind of thinking this Tales of Festival is where they would have shown a bit more and maybe given a release date, but now we pretty much have to hope that Summer Games Fest or something with Microsoft or Sony can show us more of that game. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the source code that's been leaked out. And it was a bit surprising because it's for the 3DS. And the 3DS, while it is on its way out, it's still sold in stores, right? You can go in, get like a 2DS XL or a regular 2DS, and the money still goes to Nintendo. It's not like if you buy an N64 online on like eBay or something, that's just going to the person selling it, right? So it's not as big of a deal if these legacy systems have their source code put out there. It's a bit of a bigger deal for the 3DS. Now, this appears to be just the OS source code, not like design documentation, like the Wii is just out there. Like, people have everything about the Wii pretty much at this point, but all of the documentation surrounding the 3DS seems to be pretty much the source code and any documentation around that. But something that was pretty interesting that people noticed immediately, because people will have to really comb through this to see if there's any interesting little bits of facts or piece of information in these documents. But one thing that was immediately found was that Nintendo and Nvidia were indeed collaborating together and working towards having some kind of Nvidia chip in the 3DS as early as 2006. The strange thing about that, because now we of course know about the Tegra, it's in the Switch, and it's done pretty well for the amount of power that it draws playing games like Doom and The Witcher. That's pretty good. But in 2006, there was no Tegra. The Tegra line showed up in 2008. Now, 2006 obviously is way before the 3DS actually showed up. That's pretty much the early stages. So it seems like Nintendo and Nvidia were indeed sitting down, as there were rumors about the 3DS getting some sort of Nvidia chip. They were sitting down to work this out, and I guess it didn't work at the end, because obviously Nintendo moved to do something else with the 3DS rather than have an Nvidia chip in there. It was an ARM V11 or something. It would have been, I think, interesting to see what Nvidia would have come up with, but in 2008, they moved on and introduced the first Tegra chip, and that, of course, would end up being this whole line of chips that ended up with an X1 in the Switch as it is now. But who knows? The 3DS could have been pretty cool with the Nvidia chip. Now, there were also two Pokemon games that were leaked out. That'd be Diamond and Pearl, and I saw some of you in the comments saying, hey, let me know when Diamond and Pearl leak out, because we had talked about, of course, the Generation 3 games like Sapphire and Fire Red and all of that leaking out, but people were wondering about Diamond and Pearl, and those are indeed out there. I'll be curious to see if anyone takes advantage of that or looks through the source code or modifies or does anything with those games, because people have asked about that, and hey, there you go. Diamond and Pearl are indeed out there. And again, this is just another leak in this whole series of leaks. I guess it seems to be coming from the same source, and we had heard that they had taken terabytes of information from Nintendo at some point. So I don't know if the leaks stop with the 3DS. I'm not sure how much further this whole thing goes. But I mean, a lot of info's out there. Nintendo, I'm sure, is not happy, especially now that a system that is still on the market has had the entire source code for the OS leak out there. And we'll see what comes of it and what people find in the source code. So who knows? Maybe next week we'll talk about some other crazy leak like the Wii U or something. We'll see. Next up, let's talk about Joy-Con drift. It's something that does indeed still exist. You see people talking about it still. And we're years and years into the Switch's life right now. You feel like after people started to figure this out, Nintendo would have jumped on it a bit more and maybe worked it all out, and maybe they still will. We'll see. I'm hoping that, obviously, going into next generation, that they have all of this worked out with the Joy-Con drift, but it is something people still are experiencing, even though Nintendo has gone through the ringer online with this whole thing, going as far as to replace people's Joy-Cons with no questions asked. Hey, is your Joy-Con drifting? Send it in, we'll send you another one. Now, that also does depend on the region that you're in, but in the US, Nintendo of America has been pretty much straight up, okay, send it in, we'll send you one. Don't worry about a receipt or anything, we're just gonna take care of this now. But still, people are pushing Nintendo in the courts, as you would expect, and well, we're getting several lawsuits pushed against Nintendo around the idea of Joy-Con drift being known by Nintendo and them still putting these products out there defective. Now, on Thursday, there was a decision made in the U.S. District Court for Northern District of Illinois, and presiding over the case of Zachary Vergara, and in this instance, they decided to move it to arbitration to see if it should go to court. Yeah, so I guess they're going to have it pushed off to arbitration, where a third party will look at it and decide if Nintendo's terms of service protects them from even going to court. And this becomes a problem, obviously, because now we're like, okay, we're not even going to court. we have to go through a process to then get to court, is what I'm gathering from this. And it doesn't look good for consumers who would like I would say, fast resolution to this, because it's already slow enough if you go through the court system most times, but now we're throwing in a whole nother step that's going to take a while. And people are already mentioning this could take years. We could get into the next generation before some of these cases are handled and dealt with. And don't even start on the class action lawsuit. That's going to take a while. That PS3 class action lawsuit where they removed the other OS and it took them like a decade to send out checks. It was crazy. So yeah, even the individual cases now are being moved to arbitration, and this kind of sets a precedent for people around the US anyway, who are going to courts and want to try to push a lawsuit around the Joy-Con. Judges will look at this and say, well, they moved it to arbitration. We'll do the same thing and let them deal with it to see if it should even be in front of me for this case. Next up, let's talk about Metroid Prime Trilogy on the Switch. Because right now, at least online, people are wondering if there really is a possibility of this thing coming out in like 3 weeks. No, seriously, this is happening right now. And it all seems to kind of revolve around an online retailer who decided to update the date for this game. Here's the listing right here. You can see it. This is from Init, and it says Metroid Prime Trilogy. You got the little Switch box art that looks not even really complete, but there it is. And they changed the date to June 19th, 2020. So that's right, just a few weeks from now, you too could be playing Metroid Prime Trilogy. And this was all it took. People exploded online with rumors, wondering if Nintendo could shadow drop. That's right, shadow drop Metroid Prime Trilogy. Most likely no. That would be something that Nintendo would want to stock in retail stores and not just be a digital release, and they'd probably want to work it up with like marketing and really kind of have it as a push towards Metroid Prime 4, or even a 2D Metroid that maybe comes out the following year or even in the same year. Metroid Prime Trilogy is something that's been allegedly held off because Metroid Prime 4 ran into some issues. I don't think they would just randomly shadow drop it. Now, the reason I think people are wondering if this could happen is because, of course, we saw what just happened with Paper Mario, so there's kind of the idea of, like, anything can happen at this point with Nintendo. They can just announce it and it's out. But I really think they were cutting it close with Paper Mario. I mean, it's like 2 months out, right, from when they announced it. That's the cutoff. They were so close, I think, there, because they want to give retailers a chance to take pre-orders and get any marketing set up. And, like, I don't think you just drop Metroid Prime Trilogy like on Best Buy and Walmart and GameStop. That's just not a good way to sell a game. So most likely, no. In fact, I don't even know. I want to say it'll come out this year, but I have a feeling it will not. Nintendo's gonna string this along for a while with me. Trust me. Metroid Prime Trilogy will probably be like one of the last games on the Switch. It'll come out after Metroid Prime 4. Makes no sense, but Nintendo will just do that to me. Trust me. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Sonic. Well, we had Sonic Forces, and that was it was Sonic Forces, and then we had Sonic Mania, which was great, right? It was awesome. And then we really haven't had much outside of the Sonic Team Racing game, and people have been wondering, when's the next 3D Sonic going to happen? Because they were pretty close together, right? We'd get some sort of Sonic game almost yearly. And unfortunately, I think some of the quality would suffer because they felt the need to get it out there, and it looks like that was the case, as on an official live stream, Aaron Weber said that, yeah, they were trying to get these out, production will be rushed at times, and they are deciding to take more time with Sonic, specifically 3D Sonic. And you know what? I think that's a good idea. I don't think we need Sonic every single year. Like, I think some people are okay waiting a few years for a Sonic game if it is good. It's worse if you get a bad Sonic game and then another bad Sonic game, and they start to add up to where it's like, it's been 4 or 5 years since you feel like you've played a good Sonic game, right? Like Sonic Generations was a while ago. Sonic Mania was great, but that was 2D. I'm just trying to think of like 3D Sonic games here. And if they do decide to do Sonic Adventure 3, take your time. Like spend 3 or 4 years developing this thing, because that is a name that will move Sonic units, right? Like people will go out and buy that game because it's called Sonic Adventure 3, but then they'll be really, really mad if it turns out to be a terrible game. So, to me, take your time. Don't rush production. I mean, most people will hang out and wait for a good Sonic game if it is good. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Rumo2 saying, you know what else was announced way too early? Shin Megami Tensei 5. And yeah, I'd agree with that. Apparently they hadn't even really started actual production on the game yet when they showed that trailer. It was pretty much just set up to go alongside of the Switch's reveal and be like, hey, Atlas is here too with Shin Megami. This is great. But little did we know the thing wasn't even rolling along yet in production. So there you go, that's great. I believe in 2018 they started full-scale production, and here we are in 2020 waiting for something, right? But we do have that event at the end of next month, New Game Plus, that Atlas is going to be at, so hey, maybe that's where they show Shin Megami Tensei 5. I mean, Nintendo has told third parties that they're not going to be doing a direct, apparently. So if you have plans and you want to reveal some games, just go ahead. Maybe that's where Atlas finally does it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the 3D source code leak, the 3DS source code leaking out. What do you think about that one? Or even the Pokemon game source code, Diamond and Pearl, getting out there? Or what do you think about the Joy-Con drift lawsuits kind of being moved to arbitration, kind of give them another step just to get to the courts and be in front of a judge? And then Metroid Prime Trilogy. Are they shadow dropping that next month? What do you think about that one? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.